Hey everybody. I'm still a little sick here, but I hope you can bear with my voice because this important information needs to be covered. As all of the mainstream media continues to push this fear about the coronavirus, and I mean they have ramped it up to another whole level in the last 2 days.
China's fastest growing coronavirus outbreak took a startling turn for the worst overnight. Health officials confirmed more than 15,000 new cases in just one day after switching to new diagnosis methods.
They are saying everything from, this could stay in the United States for the whole year and even past that.
Big spike in the number of coronavirus cases. The CDC warns the deadly outbreak could continue into next year.
And they're talking about how many cases have jumped sky high in the last couple days in China. You have Japan reporting its first case. You also have the CDC coming out saying, oh, sorry, some of our testing kits were defective. So we really don't know, the people that we did test, they may have actually been positive or negative, because they said it could be false positives or false negatives. And the way I want to cover this is I don't want to just continue to cover what they're saying, because then all I am doing is helping them spread their fear, helping them spread their panic throughout all of the people that watch my video. And that's the last thing that I want. But I do still need to cover this. I have people asking me to please continue to stay on this, so I'm going to. But I'm going to show you the reason why they're pumping up all of this fear and panic right now as high as they are.
The latest person to test positive was on this flight to Texas from the epicenter of the outbreak. Tonight, after the 15th case of coronavirus in the U.S., the CDC has an urgent warning for Americans.
There may be additional cases that we identify. I do want to prepare you for that.
Exactly. She said it very clearly. They are trying to prepare you. That's what this entire thing is them preparing and programming you to fear this situation.
600 people are still quarantined on military bases, including Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, where the CDC now says at least 2 evacuees have the virus.
Annabelle!
3-year-old Annabelle Wasinski's father, Frank, worries his daughter could also be infected.
Some of the staff saw her cough, so they suggested that we go to the doctor's tent.
They were on one of the evacuation flights from China where the virus killed the little girl's grandfather.
Did you hear what he said? Because she was coughing, they took her to the hospital. So that means, once again, they took her whether she wanted to or not.
The largest concentration of cases outside of China is on this cruise ship docked in Japan, where out of 3,700 passengers and crew aboard, at least 218 have tested positive. Kent Frazier's wife is at a local hospital after showing symptoms. He says concern aboard the ship is growing.
They feel like they're on a floating petri dish, that the longer they stay here, the more likely they are to get it.
Today, members of the World Health Organization are meeting with top tech companies in Silicon Valley like Facebook and Google to make sure they're communicating correct coronavirus information. The concern right now, false rumors are spreading on social media faster than the virus itself. Nora?
All right.
See, once again, they are coming after all of us that are trying to cover the actual truth. You guys, once again, you know it. It comes back to the vaccines. But for a different reason now. It comes back to the vaccines now because they're trying to fast track these vaccines. They're trying to take off regulations for these vaccines. You see, they're going to use this entire scenario here. They're going to be able to use this to say, because it was so bad, they were able to make this vaccine so fast because they were allowed to do it like that. They were allowed not to have to go through the steps and the regulations that they needed to always go through before.
Slowly but surely, the disease is becoming a threat to the planet. And the scale of that threat became clear yesterday in China, with almost 15,000 new cases and 242 more deaths on Wednesday. It's clear that even China's authoritarian government can't keep this under control. Dr. Mark Siegel is a Fox Medical contributor. He joins us tonight. Dr. Siegel, thanks so much for coming on. So if you were to graph this out, it seems to point up. That's the trajectory from the layman's perspective of this virus. Are you more concerned than you were?
I'm becoming more concerned. First of all, the international health community is in a state of outrage over the way that this virus has been handled in China from the very beginning. We believe that they knew about this for weeks before it ever started to come out or was even declared. Now they're saying, well, we're running low on test kits, Tucker, so we have to start using chest x-rays and CAT scans to diagnose it, the pneumonia we see in 15% of cases. And that points to a larger problem. How many thousands of cases are out there in China that are still undiagnosed or were never diagnosed? The head of the CDC pointed out today that we think within the first week you can spread it asymptomatically before you even have symptoms. All of this points to it still not being under control. We still don't have the Centers for Disease Control in there to help out. Neighboring countries are starting to get more and more concerned about this. Physicians having to diagnose this without all the material they need and the ability to isolate patients is very worrisome. And eventually it's going to spill over to the rest of the world, potentially causing a pandemic. I want to point out a neighbor right next to China, North Korea, the Hermit Kingdom, is claiming today they don't have a single case. I ask you, Tucker, do you believe that? I certainly don't. We talk about lack of disclosure. A virus is something that doesn't obey boundaries. It's public health. The world needs to come together here to solve this problem before it really gets out of control.
The Spanish flu of 1918 made it to the most remote Aleutian Island, so that tells you everything. Dr. Siegel, thanks so much for that update. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Tucker.
Okay, now you just heard all of the fear and the panic that they just pushed through all the news media, okay? But listen to what she says at the end of this video clip.
Those masks as they were in the room. There's conflicting info on whether or not those masks are worth it, and some people wonder if they should be protecting themselves.
So those masks are a little bit helpful is probably the best word behind this, because what they do is they protect it. If somebody coughs or sneezes and they don't cover up, the mask does that job for them. But the masks were originally intended to protect the patient from the surgeon, so if the surgeon coughs, it doesn't get on the patient. That's the original idea behind the masks. But now, if you're around somebody who's doing that, it can help a little bit, but the virus can still get through those masks, and that's probably the biggest message. Hand washing is still the biggest thing you can do.
Dr. John, the director of the CDC said that the coronavirus may spread asymptomatically, meaning that you can spread it and exhibit no symptoms. How surprising was that to hear? How concerning is that to you?
That's not very surprising at all, because if you look at the flu, which is a similar type virus, the flu can spread a day before symptoms start. And this is very common with these types of viruses. The concern is now that we think it could spread asymptomatically before people start getting symptoms, then more people could catch it before they can quarantine somebody who, once they start symptoms, that's what they do. So it just makes the worry a little bit more. It makes it a little harder to contain.
Just really quickly, do we know yet how serious it is, how virulent this is?
We don't.
Is it a sore throat or is it deadly?
And that's one of the things they said yesterday. We're still learning so much about this, and that's one of the reasons they set up the EOC.
All right, Dr. John, thank you.
You bet.
If what she just said isn't massive red flags, I don't know what else to tell you. They are doing all of the things that I just showed you. They're pushing all that fear, that panic, that dread, that anxiety. That is their plan. And they're pushing it all when they don't even know if it's even as bad as a sore throat. This is completely insane, everyone. This is to push these vaccines as hard as they ever have before. And by ramping up this panic as high as they can, they are going to be allowed to push these vaccines through at a very, very fast rate. And remember, they're being allowed to because it is for your own good. This is for your safety that they're going to now change all the rules about these horrible and deadly vaccines that they were to start with. Well, now they're going to cut all time limits, and they're going to stop regulations and allow them to make these vaccines and start testing them on all of us in a very, very fast time period. That is what this is all about. Please do not fall for this panic and this fear. We are still talking about 1,500 deaths in the entire world. This is crazy, but they're going to quarantine all of this stuff. They're going to do all this media. They're doing everything they're doing. They're doing it for the vaccines and to test the rollouts of federal quarantines. Do not be afraid of this virus. Pay attention to the things that they're saying in the background, because that's what you need to be more worried about. You need to be more worried about them taking your rights away and quarantining you over having a cough. You need to worry about that way more than you ever need to worry about catching this so-called COVID-19 virus.
Scientists at the National Institutes of Health are working to create a vaccine for the new coronavirus that originated in China. But they're not starting from scratch. They're employing an approach called vaccine rapid response platforms.
It involves high-tech methods that have the potential to shave years off of development time. Ideally, they'd offer protection while an epidemic was still spreading, instead of years later.
Within weeks of the world learning about the Wuhan outbreak, Chinese scientists uploaded the novel coronavirus's genetic sequence to a public database that allowed teams around the world to start designing a vaccine. Traditional methods require an actual sample of the virus. Typically, scientists inactivate a virus using special chemicals before it's put into a vaccine. When the inactivated or weakened virus is injected into the body, the immune system recognizes it as a foreign invader or an antigen. Vaccines use antigens to prime the body to protect against a particular virus. But vaccines developed with rapid response platforms work differently. Rather than directly injecting antigens into the body, these types of vaccines typically send instructions to cells in the body. It gets the cells to produce antigen proteins that are specific to the virus it's designed to defeat. These instructions are in the form of RNA or DNA, the molecules that contain the code for building proteins. Scientists say this process cuts down on development time because they don't have to grow the whole virus. Plus, once scientists identify and create the instructions for one virus, they can tweak those instructions to make a vaccine for a similar virus.
So think of the backbone as a cassette player, and the new virus sequence of our target, like from the new coronavirus, that sequence that we design in, think of it as a new cassette tape. So you can just slot it in.
You can slot in new virus antigens.
Melanie Saville is the director of vaccine research and development at the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness. CEPI is a global partnership that was launched at Davos in 2017.
We were actually formed specifically to look at this type of situation.
In this situation, the emergence of a new coronavirus, CEPI is funding several teams from around the world that Saville says are each independently working from the platform model.
The sort of technologies that we are looking at, some of which are really quite pioneering, can really move very quickly.
3 of the candidates are in a category called nucleic acid vaccines. One of those candidates is Moderna, which is working with the NIH. They're developing a vaccine on a platform that uses a part of the virus's genetic code called messenger RNA, or mRNA. So again, unlike the conventional approach, with mRNA vaccine platforms, it's our own body's cells, rather than lab techs, that produce the antigen proteins that are like the ones made by the coronavirus.
Your immune system then will be stimulated and develop antibodies to the virus so that when you see it again, it can immediately recognize the virus and prevent you from becoming sick.
More and more people are becoming sick from the novel coronavirus. As the race for a viable vaccine continues, public health officials don't know how bad the situation will be by the time they hope to have a vaccine ready for widespread distribution.
Normally, vaccines will take years to get into the clinic, so the sort of technologies that we are looking at can really move very quickly. So an example of that is getting from identifying the sequence of the virus to developing the vaccine, doing all of the preclinical testing, manufacturing, and getting into the clinic in 16 weeks.
So around 4 months. During the 2003 SARS outbreak, that process took 20 months. Experts say if one of the 4 teams CEPI is funding is successful, it would be a watershed moment for human health.
So we need to stay ahead of them as much as we can possible. I'll continue to cover this. I'll continue to cover anything you guys want me to cover. If you guys want me to make a video on something else, leave a comment in the description and just let me know. Just tell me what you guys would like me to cover, and I will do my best in trying to find some information on that and put out a video for you. Thank you guys all for the support, and we will be alright. We will get through this. You guys don't panic, please. If your family and friends are panicking, calm them down. Put the numbers out to them. How many die from the flu? How many die from just random acts that they... Please explain to them that this is not at the level that they are explaining this is. Thank you all. You guys stay strong. God bless.